seeing to the center of things, close to the earth. Beauty and mystery take shape. A mythology in vast solitary spaces of bird and animal life. Historical events, an imagination embodying the special promise of democracy.
A city in the garden.
One destiny.
Part urban, part rural.
Part wild.
If beauty stands for anything, it is because it binds generations together. Laredo Taft, speaking at the Art Institute of Chicago, 1917.
The place is the hero, community the plot, nature as dramatic medium, an oboe solo in the open air. The new world, battleground and paradise, no innocent dream but based on Shawnee sacrifice. The first who loved the dunes, archetypal, historical, living in profound reciprocity with acorn, blueberry, and fawn, until the songs were ended.
Louis Sullivan, do you think the picture of the city one thing? The picture of the broad water and land another thing? The drama of the city one thing? The drama of the open another?
The drama of democracy, an American civil religion with symbols, beliefs, rituals, stories about society's place in space, time, and history. As Lincoln said, God's almost chosen people. A challenge to art, a question mark and great struggle for community. Reclaiming the land for the people. The Declaration of Independence read aloud by the roaring lake.
For 30 years, we've been cut off from the lake by railroad corporations, private hotels, private interests, and our voice has been suppressed and our protest not been heard. Henry J. Jackson, Public Ownership League, 1917.
A common impulse, peculiarly American, yet international too, gathered in Chicago at the turn of another century. Midwestern myth-making, voluntary, experimental, like Twain's Huckleberry Finn, a dream of pastoral brotherhood flowing through the middle of the country. Jane Addams,
Gents,
and Harriet Monroe,
Carl Sandburg,
Henry Coles,
Alice Gray, reformers, artists, scientists, dune country patriots for whom Chicago was not merely a city, but a region, the world's garden.
Graham Taylor describes the Commons, 1916.
Those few patches of Mother Earth still unclaimed as private property, standing room for all.
The singular experience of an artist meets the whole experience of a people, disciplined, stripped away, and making contact, educating the self, rediscovering soul, absorbing what others call naive.
Close to nature without pretension, offering sincerity, sympathy, a cooperative way of life. The naked body, goddess, ghost, standing unperturbed amidst a mob, overdressed and frantic.
According to Sherwood Anderson, those weekends on the lake shore, 6 or 8 of us men and women sleeping, or at least trying to sleep, under one blanket by a low fire built on the beach, and going off in the darkness to some secluded spot to bathe, all of us in the nude, innocent enough, but defying the life out of which we all had come.
This remnant of wilderness, remote yet close by, fact of our evolutionary adventure, intended for all, a 360-degree vision of a dunes park, sand, trees, surf, and bathers. Dad in rolled-up pants, mother in her wide-brimmed hat, a string of children following, and the family dog crossing the beach like royals on their way to Eden. Lush garden of marshes, streams, and oak savanna, only dreamt of until this day.
Stephen Mather, 1916. The dunes are readily accessible to approximately 5 million people. They are ideally located with respect to the center of population, which when last determined was in the state of Indiana.
That glacial plain, divided by state line, trading a map and politics for actual landscape, the ground itself. These dunes encircled all Chicago once, defined the place in total, the real region, ecologically and socially understood, seen and grasped in one look by anyone standing on the beach where Michigan City would be named. To the far shore of Waukegan, all of it true dune country.
Those dunes are to the Midwest what the Grand Canyon is to Arizona and the Yosemite to California. Carl Sandburg to Paul Douglas, 1958.
Wind ripples on open beach.
Go further.
Small hillocks of sand held against the wind by mirum grass and wormwood.
Further still.
Through cherry and willow.
Higher yet.
To cottonwood trees and jack pine.
Further.
A sheltering forest, black oak and blueberry brush, maple, beech, and in the speckled light, a standing sea of lush green ferns, crossing trembling ground, Cole's bog, floating tamarack and cedar trees, orchids quaking underfoot, a place where beginnings never die, but nothing lasts, signature of time and eternity.
Thy fingers twining in the wind, as lovers' hands with tresses play, remold thine empire in the night, and bring new states to greet the day. New hills, yea, mortal hills shall rise to boast before the changing skies.
Thomas Wood Stevens, The Spirit of the Dunes, 1901.
Landscape architect Jens Jensen, standing before a tulip tree he'd known for 40 years, said, "Things can only come when the ground is ready. Life is continuity, and it cannot be stopped. Like this tree, we grow from all the generations." The birthplace of ecology, manifold and complex relations between plants and animals. One community, bee lighting on marsh marigold, neither taking from the other, both flourish. Nothing lives without the help of others. Ecology, community, disruption, readjustment, succession toward climax, threads woven on nature's loom.
Henry Coles speaks. For 20 years, I've been studying the dunes more than anything else combined. In fact, that has been my chief reason for being. In November 1897, I drove a stake into the ground at the base of a dune to measure its movement. When I checked it in May, it was almost covered with sand, and by July, it had completely disappeared. Look, ecology is the study of origins and life histories. By burying the past, a sand dune offers plant life a world for conquest, subject almost entirely to existing physical conditions. The advance of a dune makes all things new.
Start by looking. Take a walk in the dunes, through the plant societies. As you head inland in space, you go backward in time, reconstructing the development of this archetypal landscape, sacred center of evolution. Successive plant societies in reciprocal relationship with dunes, moving, transforming themselves from primitive beach to embryonic foredunes, wandering inland across deer tracks and coyote trace, burying whole forest before rest and black oak taking hold.
Others call it wasteland. Barrens only fit for building, a site for industrial fire, steelmaking, making power to strengthen the human hand, throw dice, and cast shadows. Sandberg's image of Gary Mills where scarves of smoke like shadow women pour from chimneys on the empty-hearted wind.
I will, declares the city. Chicago, great bellows fanning flames, setting fire to the sky.
I won't, I can't, I couldn't. Sandberg talking back.
General John Tipton, Indiana surveyor in 1821. It is my opinion the hills are formed by the sand beating out of the lake by waves when it becomes dry. The hard wind, which prevails here from the north, drives it into those heaps. Immediately behind those hills, the country falls off into ponds and marshes that never can admit of settlement, nor never will be of much service to our state.
A nation big enough to make mistakes, with so much of everything to be used. Land for farming, animals to hunt, forests to clear, and water. Water most of all for the taking. In 1901, 200 companies combine, form U.S. Steel, and quarter the nation's market. This giant needs a lakeshore site, needs 9,000 acres, with room for fabrication, needs housing for workers, needs to change the Calumet River's course.
I felt we were in the grip of an almost irresistible force which would overrun those who loved the dunes and sweep on to Michigan City and beyond. The worst features of our civilization threatened to invade what had been an earthly paradise. Senator Paul H. Douglas, standing on the beach in Ogden Dunes, looking west toward Gary.
The largest blast furnaces in North America, a deep water port.
Land gone missing, disappeared, so even memory is bleached like driftwood in the sun.
And yet, there was a pageant played, with 3 states, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan in view, enacting migrations. Miami,
Algonquin,
and Iroquois, Potawatomi, and Blackhawk.
Voyagers down from Canada, trappers in canoes, and farmers driving cattle, pigs, and sheep, freed slaves and fugitives following the North Star by underground railway to this sacred site on Waverly Beach, the foot of Mount Tom.
People gathered. Ben Hecht was there.
So far as the ghosts of LaSalle and Marquette were concerned, it couldn't have been a better day for a historical pageant. The Indiana Dunes lay in an inscrutable wilderness under a gloomy sky.
Several thousand by mid-afternoon, making pilgrimage to save what land remained.
Stoughton Cooley, writing for the Chicago Herald, 1917. O ye men and women of Chicago, conquering and unconquered, ye good-hearted, careless, blundering, profligate citizens, pause a moment in your mad career. Lift up your eyes and behold a beauty not made by the hand of man.
The flag flying on Mount Tom, voices bearing stories, words for what happened here in and across time, across generations, dancing as wind and waves. Ghost called back by burning logs, music in the treetops, love songs to the land.
A hymn. This place must be preserved for its sake and for ours. A natural park where the living make contact with their founding, interpenetrating, sacred and profane, making visible, present, and real the unity living here. Human and environmental welfare, a single cause.
This patriotic pageant not only glorifies the project of saving the dunes, but does something towards re-cementing the sympathies of people of all degrees and nationalities in this region. Caroline McIvane, Chicago Historical Society.
Of the people, by the people, for the people, masses as well as classes. This surging, seething humanity demands an audience, a piece of public property, parks envisioned to mark 100 years of Indiana statehood, so every citizen can camp on his own land, one with nature, part of the whole foundation of this republic. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness as natural history, the green-veined life, overhead and underfoot.
Park visitors are citizens who pridefully consider themselves stockholders in a growing concern, not supplicants of charity or political favor. Richard Lieber, founder of Indiana's state parks.
Roiling lake before us, stars strewn across the sky, counting constellations. Orion, the Dippers. Looking north, is that the star? And in the distance, Chicago's sleepless plume, seductive incandescence, promising eternal youth, riches, blood orange relevance. No breakwater here, but the sand. Dunes still in the making stars visible. Nighttime on the beach. Enter two ghosts, possibly lost. They are, or were, Indiana Congressman Charlie Halleck and his nemesis, the senator from Illinois, Paul Douglas.
Charlie Halleck, what brings you here?
Paul, is that you? Well, I could ask you the same question, Douglas. For crying out loud, what is this place?
You don't recognize it?
No, I don't. I mean, what's that? Where are we? Some kind of swamp? Feels like the middle of nowhere.
Well, listen, what do you hear?
That noise? Like an engine?
That's the lake, Charlie. Lake Michigan.
Right. Of course, Lake Michigan. I'd know that sound anywhere.
I would think so. You claimed this part of the state, as I recall.
Yes, I did. But you know what I mean. You seen one lake, you seen them all, right?
Ah, Charlie.
Where are we? It's dark, and my eyes ain't what they used to be. I got that night blindness, you know.
Now, smell the air, Charlie. What do you smell?
Now, wait a minute. It's like, for Pete's sake, Paul, I don't smell anything.
You don't get the oak leaves underfoot? Or that whiff of fur?
Fur? What are you talking about?
Never mind, Charlie. You don't smell that freshwater sea?
You're telling me we're in the dunes. I get it.
I had a house here once.
So you did.
I was happy here.
So you said.
I loved this place.
Man, you could play that bumpkin like it was a violin, Douglas. But let's get something straight. This was my territory. These were my people. They elected me to be their representative in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And they kept electing me every 2 years, going all the way back to the Great Depression. Those were the dog days for Republicans, man. Dog days. But these people, my people, they kept voting me back. And I brought home the bacon.
I know you did, Charles. You certainly did.
What I want to know is, what are we doing here? I mean, here. Where's my port of Indiana? It's got to be here someplace.
I'm sure it is, Charles.
Should be right by the mill, the Bethlehem plant.
That part of the dunes we wanted most to save.
What? What you say?
You got your port, Charlie. You brought home the bacon.
Damn right. No thanks to you, mister. You know, I imagine there are people living here that think you were a Hoosier. That think you were from here. They forget you're a Chicago boy, senator from Illinois.
It's all part of the same place, Charlie. Illinois, Indiana, it's just a line on a map.
Yeah, but lines matter. If I can remind you, that's how we play this game. Nobody here voted for you.
I represented the country's interest.
They voted for me.
I represented
the people voted
land.
For me, Paul. They voted for me.
The land didn't have a vote.
What?
The land didn't have a vote. It never has a vote.
The Bible says the Lord gave man dominion over the land. That means making the most of it. We built that port, brought shipping to Indiana. To Indiana. And we could have done more.
Like Gary, Charlie, like Gary. Went from sand dunes to boomtown to bust in less than 100 years. But as long as it takes a man to be born, come of age, get sick, and die. I pray that people can bring Gary back again. I honor those who stayed. Those dunes are gone forever. We'll never see them again.
Tell it to the trees. Because you know what? Every tree standing could be a job. 3 jobs for somebody. My people need jobs. They need to make a living. And that's the line I drew. When those mills were at full capacity, those blast furnaces so hot they'd make your eyebrows fall off, the more smoke there was in the air, the better everybody liked it. That smoke was money. That smoke was prosperity.
I understand that.
Then for crying out loud, why did you fight it?
I didn't fight the mills, Charlie.
Then what were you doing, I'd like to know?
You know what I almost said? I almost said the mills were a force of nature. That's funny. Force of nature. Shows you how the language we use sets traps. Look at those mills. They're so big, so powerful. They dominate everything around them. It's tempting to think they're like mountains or hurricanes. Force of nature. But there's nothing natural about them, Charlie. Not one thing. They're here because we put them here. There's no fighting a force of man like that. So I came from the city, Charlie, and I saw what the city did to people. Not all of them, mind you, but many. Those people, like you say, with no eyebrows left. They need places like this. They need the space, the air, the beauty.
Beauty?
Beauty, yes, Charlie, beauty. All ye know on earth and all ye need to know.
I'd like to see you tell that to a man with a wife and 5 kids.
That's just it, Charlie. I don't have to tell him anything if I can show him this place. If he can know that this belongs to him and his wife and his kids and their kids too. You got what you wanted, Charlie. You got your port. Why were you so hell-bent on taking everything?
Because you were a stuck-up, egg-headed University of Chicago socialist smarty pants. Because you knew best. Because this was none of your business. This was my business. It was my people, my state. I didn't want you or anybody else from your city of big shoulders. Yeah, I know some poetry too, Professor Douglas. Telling me, us, what was best.
Of course you didn't, Charlie. I can see that now.
You can't.
Oh, yes. To be honest, I always saw it.
You did?
I knew the stakes. Looking back, the fact that we saved as much of this land as we did is a kind of miracle.
You can call it that.
Or better yet, a trick of parliamentary procedure.
You called in your favors. I miscalculated. That pissed me off as much as anything. You want to know the truth.
What a gorgeous night. Look up, Charlie. You can see Orion's belt. I doubt you'd see that in the city. Too much electric light. And the moonlight, Charlie, doesn't it make the sand seem to glow?
Yeah, it's something, all right. Okay, Douglas, let's get out of here. Paul.
Yes.
Paul.
Charlie.
Oh, come on, would you? I can't find my way out by myself.
Sand surrounded by black oak forest, ancient beach, prairies and marshes teeming with birds.
Stands of northern white pine mixed with hawthorn and cottonwood, lying on climactic boundaries, the elements of many regions.
A new old world where 4 points of the compass converge, moving slowly, silently, irresistibly.
This place where Grasshopper danced at the wedding of the Manitou, getting lost, accidentally, on purpose, along the beach with bright sun overhead.
In contact with beginnings, crossing trembling ground on the verge of something deep.
Grains of sand falling through your fingers. Infinite number of particles.
Like a democracy, so different and yet the same. Wind, sun, water, earth slowly filled with vegetation, pushed south by glacier and left behind. Snakes, poison sumac, mosquitoes, carnivorous plants. How tamarack and cedar trees whisper above brown waters. Inscrutable wilderness. Distant lightning.
Oh, do it. Do it again.
For many in the audience of thousands, sitting in silence around the sides of the great sand bowl, it must have seemed as though their own collective inner history was revealed to them. This region, so recently settled, doubling in population every decade, had an archaic past. Out here in the dunes, away from the distractions of the city, this sacred past could once again live and give purpose to the present.
J. Ron Engel, Sacred Sands.
Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Up on the mountain, my Lord spoke. Out of his mouth came fire and smoke. I looked all around me, all did shine. I asked the Lord if all was mine. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, moving in my heart, moving in my heart, moving in my heart, moving in my heart.
Thy fingers twining in the wind, as lovers' hands with tresses play, remold thine empire in the night, and bring new states to greet the day. New hills, yea, mortal hills shall rise to boast before the changing skies.
New hills, yea, mortal hills shall rise to boast before the changing skies. Thy fingers twining in the wind, as lovers' hands play with tresses, remove thine empire in the night, and bring new states to greet the day.
Thy fingers twining in the wind, as lovers' hands play with tresses, remold thine empire in the night, and bring new states to greet the day.